This could be a game changer for most resellers out there. And I'm going to tell you about that on the other side. So without any further ado, let's go. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is John from Flip It Ain't Easy. And as I mentioned in the intro, what's on the horizon may not be good at all for us resellers. And what that is this story that I read on CNN Business, and it states, "Just keep your returns. Stores weigh paying you not to bring back unwanted items." Now, on its face, the story is somewhat alarming, but if you read the story, it becomes even more so. The chaotic mix of record fuel prices and an unending supply chain crisis have retailers considering the unthinkable. Instead of returning your unwanted items, just keep them. And so that in itself is going to have a huge impact. And it's going to have an impact on those like myself who buy liquidation to resell, because once these companies stop accepting returns, of course, that's going to dry up, and sellers like myself are going to be directly affected and not be able to buy the pallets that we're used to buying in order to flip. I'll go on and give you the highlights of the article. In recent weeks, some of the biggest store chains, including Target, Walmart, Gap, American Eagle Outfitters, and others, have reported in their latest earnings calls that they have too much inventory of stuff ranging from workout clothes, springtime jackets, hoodies, garden furniture, and bulky kids' toys. It's costing them tons of money to store it. Now, add on to that glut another category of products that stores have to deal with: returns. For every dollar in sales, a retailer's net profit is between a cent to 5 cents. With returns, for every dollar in return merchandise, it costs a retailer between 15 cents and 30 cents to handle it. There is one other option for retailers to address concerns while avoiding more product bloat, and that's to consider a returnless return, said Steve Ropp, the Chief Operating Officer with GoTRG, a firm that processes over 100 million returned items annually for companies like Walmart, Amazon, and Lowe's. TRG, for those of you who don't know, TRG is directliquidation.com. That's the site that I bought tons of pallets from in the past. That's exactly who GoTRG is. Ropp said his company's clients are 100% considering offering the Keep It option for returns this year, although he wouldn't disclose if any of his customers have implemented the Keep It returns policy yet. Refunding customers while simultaneously letting them keep their returns isn't a new practice, said Ropp. It started with Amazon several years ago, he said. And that did start several years ago with like your $5, $10 items, because the cost of actually processing a return label, having the return handled and all that isn't worth the cost of a $5, $10 item. So over the last few years, Amazon has been allowing you just to pretty much, just keep the item, destroy it, donate it, that type of thing. Still, a Keep It policy has its own disadvantages, namely companies will need to ensure that they don't become victims of fraud. One thing retailers need to track and ensure is that customers become aware of the Keep It policy, do not begin to abuse it by seeking free merchandise over a series of orders by getting a refund but not getting to keep the merchandise, says Daniels. Now that's the end of the article, and it's alarming to those of us who rely on liquidation returns. So it's not just people like myself, it's going to be many of you, and many of you indirectly. Now, the folks that are going to be directly affected by this are, like I said, myself, because I specialize in pretty much buying liquidation pallets. But you have bin stores. So if you know of anyone who has a bin store, it's going to be harder for them to obtain merchandise, because we have people who buy truckloads in these bin stores, and they buy them from Lowe's, Walmart, Target, Amazon. So you're going to have a bunch of bin stores that are going to be pretty much competing to try to obtain what little liquidation is out there, and it's going to be harder for those stores to stay afloat as a result. Now, of course, there's always a trickle-down effect. If you depend on those bin stores to buy your merchandise to flip on eBay or any other site for that matter, that's going to dry up. And of course, it's going to affect the bin stores where they're going to end up going out of business. Indirectly, if you just buy your stuff at yard sales or at thrift stores, well, guess what? If I don't have any way to buy my liquidation merchandise anymore, if this reseller over here can't go to bin stores anymore, we're going to be gravitating to your yard sales and the thrift stores. And I've been doing thrift stores over the last year off and on, but it's going to be a lot more of us competing for the same merchandise. And that's just going to make reselling harder for everyone. Now, the purpose of this video is not to scare anyone. It's not even a thing yet, but they're talking about it. If it's on CNN Business, there's some local news outlets that are reporting this as well. And it's definitely not good for resellers, in my opinion, because less product means higher prices, more competition to source. And sourcing is where you make your money in this business. And the more plentiful the goods are, the better the prices are going to be for the reseller. And if something like this is to be implemented, I think it's probably something that they would implement in Q4, right around Christmas time. If it's going to happen, you're going to have to stay tuned. That's why you should always be in tune with, business news, on your own. Do your own research. I just came across this, and I thought it was something that was interesting to tell you guys about, but it's definitely a game changer. Now, what can you do? What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to get out to ASD next month. That's a convention that we have out here in Vegas, and you have a lot of wholesalers out there that and suppliers that are there to show their wares. And I really am going to make a little bit better effort to try to find a way to work something out, whether it's maybe niching down into one or two categories or something like that, and finding a way or finding a product that I can get that's replenishable, and I don't have to rely on going out buying liquidation pallets, rely on bin stores, and rely on thrift stores or yard sales. And so that's, for me, just something that I wanted to share with you guys. I want your thoughts down below. How would this affect you? If you weren't able to obtain liquidation merchandise, maybe you're a liquidation merchandise flipper, how would that affect you? What would you do if you were in a position where you just couldn't source that way anymore? Would you gravitate to yard sales? Would you gravitate towards flea markets, thrift stores? I suppose that would be good for your Goodwills, give them a reason to jack prices up because there's more competition. But for us that rely on going out, buying merchandise, most of us don't have these relationships with companies to obtain a direct supply from a direct supplier. It's going to be more difficult to play this game of reselling. And so I thought it was really important for me to just bring that to your attention, to let you guys know. And it's always good to be ahead of the game. So maybe, like me, you guys are putting a lot of your eggs in the same basket when it comes to sourcing. And it may be a good idea to just try to get out there and look for different ways to pick up your merchandise, so that if one way is shut down or one way is affected, or there's a drastic limitation to merchandise, then you're not affected. And let me just say this, over the last year, 6 months to a year, I've been directly affected because the amount of liquidation merchandise is pretty much like cut in half. So a lot of the good stuff is gone, and that's because of the bin stores. The bin stores are grabbing it all before it gets to the middleman that I'm used to dealing with. And the pickings are definitely slimmer, and they have been over the last year. Now add to that this problem, we're talking liquidation pallets that are probably going to be non-existent to people like you and I, because the bin stores that still have and will be able to maintain those relationships to still obtain that little bit of liquidation merchandise from the companies that still do offer returns is going to be very slim. So do me a favor, guys, hit that like button, Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. And if you want to know when I make my next video or go live and be part of it, hit that notification bell. Let me just say this. The game of reselling is just constantly evolving. You know, right now, we still have it good as resellers. The merchandise is still out there. But you really need to consider maybe have a backup plan. What would you do if you weren't able to source the way you source right now? Being aware of changes that affect you as a reseller and having a backup plan just in case those things happen. It's just another example of how flipping ain't easy. And do me a favor, check out this video if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, I want you guys to have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you very soon.